Business Spotlight, brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
I'm Sonia Farrell and this is Business Spotlight in partnership with Cross Rhythms City Radio and Baba Baboon. Joining me in the studio this week, we have Ben McManus, who's from Wavemaker Stoke, CIC. Hi Ben, how are you?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for coming in.
You know what, I can't wait for this. Dead excited. I can talk a lot, by the way, so just you have to corral me, I think.
I didn't know that. We haven't got that much airtime, Ben, so we do not have 1 hour. But I'm sure it's going to be lots of fun anyway. It'll be lots of fun. But thank you so much for coming in to the Cross Rhythms studio. Now, Wavemaker Stoke, CIC. What exactly do you do at Wavemaker Stoke, in case anybody out there doesn't really know?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so we've been going, it'll be 9 years next month.
9 years?
Yeah, I know. We're a not-for-profit, so a CIC community interest company. So there was a decision there about what the makeup of the company looked like. And I think it's taken us this long to kind of really distill down what it is we do. And I think at its core, it's about digital transformation. Okay. So what do I mean by that is, if we're working with an individual, so say we're going into a community lounge, or we're doing a session for young adults around skills for the future, it's taking them from somewhere where they currently are into somewhere where they either need to be or they want to be. So it's transforming that as an individual. But we might do digital transformation for organisations as well, which I know it sounds a bit fluffy, but it's all the things that we've communicated in the past about around closing the digital divide, empowering people through technology to have a better impact on their lives. So that's what we do. And hopefully if that's got people interested, then we can then talk a bit more about what that means, That's my elevator pitch, really.
And sort of that transformation, like you're talking, whether it's with individuals or even going into different organisations, community groups, or even businesses, to help with that transformation. But I'm just going to bring you back. What does digital divide actually mean, and what does it mean in Stoke-on-Trent?
So, I suppose, I think it was a kind of we saw it be used a lot more around the time of the City of Culture bid. This word, people started talking about digital divide, and it was being thrown into bids, and it was being used in interviews and stuff. Yeah. And so I used to ask the same questions. I used to go, what does this actually mean? And so I think we could view it from loads of different angles. So it could be, young adult at school, teenager who hasn't got access to equipment at home to be able to do their homework. Right. That's a very personal, where the digital divide is affecting them. It could be around connectivity and access to the internet, good quality internet. So it kind of splits into different areas, I think. So when we at Wavemaker talk about the trying to close the digital divide, again, it depends who we are working with. If we're working with primary care networks for the NHS, then that's empowering people to manage their health through tech. Okay. This sounds like a sales pitch already.
No.
But if you think about the advances in tech already and health, then if you haven't got the skills or confidence in any of this, then you're at a disadvantage and you're way behind. There's already an assumption that people have the kit and the equipment and everything else as well. So again, the digital divide for us, this is what we mean. It's that whole spectrum of access, confidence and skills, equipment and connectivity, really, and understanding.
Yeah, I suppose, like you've just mentioned, I think there could be a lot of assumptions out there that, people might think that, well, what is digital divide? Because everybody's got a phone, everybody's got a mobile, everybody's got the internet, which isn't actually the case, is it, Ben?
No. And I can't remember, and I should have maybe done more homework out there, but Stoke actually bucks the trend, and it's lower than the national average in terms of young adults who have access to a computer. And again, this came out through research around City of Culture. So the idea that schools would say, well, your homework's online, how many of these young adults had access to a computer? If they had brothers and sisters, were they the youngest in the family? So did their brothers and sisters come first? A lot of these kids were carers. So I think there is an assumption there as well. And we see this a lot with, again, I think it's the language used. I might be going off a bit now, but the language used in how we collectively talk about these things. And again, if I think to the work with doctor surgeries and practices for our primary care network, stuff that we were doing around digital champions, you know, the language we all use will go, oh look, Beryl, just get your smartphone, download the NHS app. No worries. Now, to us three, this might be, oh yeah, okay, great, I've done this before, no problem. So we're making an assumption there. Beryl has a smartphone. She's got access to the internet. She's got some data plan potentially. She's got the confidence to know. She can know where to download an app. Then suddenly, has she got an email? You know, photo ID. There's so many steps and processes in between. And I think we've stepped away from, this is the collective we've stepped away from understanding the personal aspect of how to speak to people when it comes to technology. And now more than ever, so I'm going off again now, is because I think things are rapidly changing with such a massive pace that, say, again, Beryl, or I use my dad when, bless him, he's still here, but when I'm talking about who's my litmus paper test when I'm working with the community, is my dad. Is he gonna get it and understand? And so that language that we use and the advances in technology, and it's maybe the news stories that he hears are the scary ones, the crazy ones, the big massive data breach. What does this mean? Or someone's been hacked. What does this mean? Or some fella's had his £17 million worth of business accounts drained because someone claimed to be from Barclays, etc. So it's managing all of that as well, I think, when we work with people. Yeah,
so the different ages, it's not just, younger people that we're talking about. Like you say, you might need access to the internet to do their homework or studying, anything like that. And I can relate. I'm going to bring it in. You mentioned your dad. My mum does not have the internet. She's aware of the internet. She wouldn't know how to use it. I'm not going to deny there's various reasons why. But her phone as well. But I just want to touch on something else there, a different example of when we're using different language. I went into one of the well-known high street stores recently. And this is what's it stuck with me, because the lady behind the counter, she says, do you have an email address? Because I know a lot of companies, they're looking to go paperless. And I said, I only use really a work email address. And she sort of frowned upon me and just assumed again that, yes, I've got email, yes, I've got a phone, blah, 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 and all those things. And I walked out of there and I just thought, well, if my mum came into this store, she hasn't got an email address. Yeah. Are they going to refuse, or how are they going to treat her? So, I mean, is that the kind of thing, that you're talking about when we're looking at different ages and this digital divide? Yeah. Within communities. Yeah, and in that sense, you're right. The divide is between those who know and assume and those who don't, So, yeah, I've had those experiences too. And you're thinking, you're missing a real opportunity here to engage. And then it's funny when you hear of, high street banks that are now starting to talk about how connected they are with the community. Now they're doing more face-to-face, and it's kind of, they're trying to swing the pendulum back a bit, I think. But, look, we're all on this journey together, and I think it's understanding, empathy, relating, not making assumptions, and trying to take people along together. And education? Yeah, of course. And that's, again, at loads of different levels. Mm-hmm. So the work, again, that we've done, a lot of our work at the moment is split between the kind of the shared prosperity fund work we're doing, called Digital, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The stuff with the primary care networks, that was almost education for practice staff. Mm-hmm. So think about a receptionist at your local surgery who in some cases has been told she has to go on this training session that we're providing. So already there's a boundary there, a blocker there, because they're thinking, I don't want to do this. And so it's being aware of that and saying, look, this isn't about replacing your job. This is just if your patients and your customers, therefore, felt
more confident in being able to have the NHS app and what it can do and the benefits, then you won't be getting 175 phone calls the second you sit on your desk. So it's kind of that. It's trying to be a people-focused technology.
Yeah, and the digital essentials or essential digital skills, is that what you were mentioning is something that you do as part of the Shared Prosperity Fund?
Yeah. So we were successful with some funding for the Community Renewal Fund. Everything's a 3-letter acronym, by the way. So CRF, and this was 3 years ago now, or maybe a bit less. So we piloted and we did a project there which was very similar around just essential digital skills. We were then aware of the funding for Shared Prosperity Fund. So this is all central government money around levelling up. Stoke were given that a pot, and they put the call out. So what could this be? So there was obviously some capital there that people could have bid for to do green spaces or buildings, and then there was one around people and skills. So we thought, well, the need is still there. So we reworked off the back of our previous bid. We worked with we got some new partners involved around the gaps that we don't deliver that they do and do really well, and we put a bid in and it was successful. And outside of the actual local authority itself, it was the biggest pot of funding awarded out. So we're the lead organisation with 3 other partners. And it's essential digital skills for life, the future, employment and health, which kind of covers pretty much everything. And so we do essential digital skills for life and employment. And so a lot of that work it's a balance. Because if we were to just say, look, we're going to do a whole series of online training sessions, well, we'd just sit there with our arms folded going, how come no one's coming on the training sessions? Because people only know what they know. So we've had to do a lot of work where we've gone into community spaces, the community hubs and lounges that are staffed by locality officers from the city council. Really good spaces, actually. So these are like, some of them are, we've got some church venues that are doing it, some food banks as well. And so these are spaces that the public come into that they trust, and then other services can come in as well, and not necessarily bombard them, but say you have Money Matters sitting there having a cup of tea, and we can have just sit there and have a desk and just say, look, if you've got any tech questions, come to us. And for me, because I've been going out and doing those sessions with 2 of our new team members, it's been not an eye-opener as such, but having, with COVID and everything going online, we weren't doing any face-to-face delivery anymore. So again, there's an assumption potentially that we're guilty of, that we think people are maybe at a level. So I suppose it's going back to what you just said there. And actually we're dealing with people who've got very real world, very individual problems to do with tech or fears or concerns. So coming up to us going, what does this mean?
Yes. Yeah, and I suppose, like, we've gone over it, we've mentioned it, but again, that education process and it's assumptions. Assumptions can happen so much, whether it's in digital, whether it's in business, whether it's in life. And the work that you're doing and what you're aiming to do as well, getting out face to face, I mean, surely having that face to face interaction, those assumptions just go.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. And
the more you talk to people.
Yes, and and I think it's about taking them with you.
On a journey.
Oh, yeah. And I keep using this example, and this happened with a previous project, but I was in the community doing a session I was planning on doing a session around cyber security. So it was advertised as being cyber smart and all these bullet points and no one was coming in, and we were thinking, well, how do we rework this? And then some gentleman came in and he handed me his phone and he said, is Putin listening to me through my phone? Now, younger me might have kind of scoffed at the idea and laughed, but I was like, to him, this is a real issue. He's trusted me to not respond in that way, and to ask that question and maybe feel vulnerable. And so I ended up sitting with him for 2.5 hours, and ultimately doing a cybersecurity workshop anyway. But it was with him around very specifically saying, look, this is how you can protect yourself, and look, this is what I think you mean by this. And so that was really important, I think. And the impact for him, I hope, was, beneficial. But how do we do that? Where's the funding come from that, Because,
on a mass scale.
Yeah, if people want numbers, which a lot of commissioners do, they want numbers and impact. I can't say, Roger over here had an incredibly beneficial thing, and he's therefore the knock-on isn't that his mental health is suffering. It's all the rest.
So in going forward, Ben, again, I'm not going to assume anything. I'm going to say I can maybe say, and I'm sure you can now, the ever-evolving world of technology. It is fast, it's vast, it's rapid, it's going left, right and centre. There's all different things coming out, including AI, including Alexas, the way, they're continuously developing, laptops, computers, you name it. How do you see the future going then with everything that we've discussed and all these sort of, barriers maybe in the way, or reaching out on a mass scale and help to reach people and help them to be more digital inclusive? What do you see for the future?
So I am in equal measure excited and a little bit concerned's not the wrong, maybe the wrong word. I'm worried there'll be a huge missed opportunity. And I don't mean that in the sense of capitalising on this. Again, I think if people aren't brought along with it, then they're really going to really struggle. We used to deliver for the Prince's Trust, or we still do, a series of week-long workshops. And we've been doing this for 6 years. So about 5 years ago, we started talking about the impact of automation and AI. So we're not to scare these young adults, just to say, look, the world you're going into, it's the fourth industrial revolution. This is what it means. This is the impact. And at the time, the Centre for Cities, so an independent organisation for the government, had done a report on the impact of AI and whatever on local economies. And so Stoke, and we did it all nationally, we had a look. And so Stoke, there was a 30% reduction in current jobs by 2030. So we're saying this to these young kids, not to scare them. And then we're saying there'll be a 50% reduction in jobs by 2050. And even though we were saying that back 4 years ago, I cannot believe how fast this is happening. And it's happening, and it's happened. I've watched Vodafone just in Festival Park suddenly outsource and get jobs from Glasgow and all over the country, and all they need is a headset and an internet connection. So Vodafone don't need their space anymore, and they have their chatbots. Anyway, so I think this will happen so quickly that we say in the company that potentially your job's not at risk of AI, but someone who can use AI is probably a risk to your job. If you can use it, it's a tool.
Yeah, it's a tool.
And so when we, it's not the be all and end all. Suddenly ChatGPT, it's going to write my dissertation, or this or this or this. How do I use that in any other way? How would I use it like I use Google? And even then, that as an example, I would say that collectively, not everyone is using the internet in the best way that they should. And I don't mean that in a subversive sense. I mean, we're maybe not using that tool in the way we could. And, gosh, what's that, 20 plus years old or whatever, however old it is, So I think AI is going to be, there will definitely be a point, and it's probably now actually, which will be kind of before the big shift and after. And it's happening so rapidly. And I think ChatGPT, so OpenAI, you do ChatGPT, and they do other ones, DALL-E, which is an image generation software. They've just released an update, which again is both incredible and shocking. Maybe that's the wrong word. And then Google did the same. They had their big press conference and talked about all the latest stuff there. So all I keep thinking about is, your mum, Beryl, my dad, going, oh, hang on. Like, if my dad, bless him, is only maybe he's questioning texts he gets from Apple, which is obviously a scam. if he's now looking at news stories and seeing maybe AI generated images that are indistinguishable from what we can, we used to say, I'll believe it when I see it, but, we can't believe that anymore. How do we ingrain that kind of critical thinking to be able to stop and pause? So I think the impact on people, I'm hoping, is incredibly positive. And I was just speaking to the team here when we were looking at, it's a strange example, but we were looking at the catalogue with Chris, the catalogue of all the CDs. And I was saying ChatGPT now did a demo where they took a photo of a bookcase. I'm gesturing Radioland to a large bookcase, and it instantly catalogued all the books.
Yep.
And listed them all. So you suddenly go, the impact there for people and to, yes, in terms of monetizing and new business opportunities is going to be incredible.
Yep.
I think the big one will be in health as well. So if we think about having to, the idea of an aging consultant, looking through images to try and detect anomalies in cells or whatever, it could be instantaneous, done by a computer program. Whether or not we have trust in this is a different issue. But yeah, the big thing for me is that the use of it and it coming on board within things like social media, and how do we, and that's both ends. So I think it's working with young kids down here to go, look, don't believe everything you see, and here are the tools in which you can then pick that apart and investigate. And then also the creative aspect, look, let's go make some music out of thin air, and let's create some art out of thin air, and using that in the same way you use a sketchbook. And then it's the other end. It's my dad going, look, Korea aren't doing this. Let's have a look at this. What's happening. Let's pick that apart too. Yeah.
Is it like, if you agree with this, Ben, but yes, AI and all these technologies, but it's not forgetting we are all human using these technologies at the moment, but we're all human using these technologies at the moment. So again, I think is it remembering that, and like you mentioned, touching on there, AI and all these other ones can be great tools to use if we can all perhaps use them better. Yeah,
completely. And I think if you think any massive shift in tech since automation of vehicles, so the production assembly line, there's always been something on the other end. There's been a balance. I suppose if a more recent one, streaming services, everyone said it'll be the death of vinyl. And look, I'm all over street. I love Spotify and others, obviously. But at the same time, I've still got a massive vinyl collection. So it's about, there will be a balance, I think, I hope. It's not the be all and end all. I just think the pace in which things are happening, if there's people that are left out currently who don't have an email address, then good grief, it's a different world. They talk about magic and how I still remember when my first phone, I was 20, I'm a little bit older than that, Radioland. So, I remember it only storing 5 messages. Now, I tell that to my kids who are all connected, multiplayer gaming with people all over the world, on the 300 quid switches or whatever. And I'm thinking, this is wild. But with ChatGPT, my youngest daughter, I was showing her the voice thing where you can just have conversations with him. So it almost acts like a psychiatrist or something. All it does is fire questions back to you, And then I suddenly realised, hang on, it's been 45 minutes and she's been talking to it and not telling her life story, but just really talking about Stranger Things, talking about this, and engaging with this computer program, which sounds, human. Oh, it's exciting and scary.
At the same time.
Yeah.
One last question, Ben, before you go.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
I'm just going to ask you then, we've talked a lot about Stoke and obviously the work that you're doing in the local communities in and around Stoke-on-Trent. What would you like to see for the future, with everything that you've seen already with Wavemaker, 9 years plus, what would you like to see for the future for Stoke-on-Trent and digital inclusion?
Okay, so obviously there's what I would like to see personally is a business here, and also as a father and somebody who lives here, I think I would like to see a whole system of hubs or places where people could go for advice and training, to ask those questions, to explore. I would like to see, so that could be us. I'd hope that was us at Wavemaker. I would like to see more tech startups and businesses locate here or start from here. I think the notion that you need to be in the big cities conurbations is not the case anymore. So why not Stoke? 4 hours and we're everywhere in the country. So I'd like to see that. And of course, with that comes a lot of other stuff. So the infrastructure, is it there? I'd like to see complete joined up thinking between, from the LEP up here and how money's spent on infrastructure through local authority. And it's around connectivity, it's around access to equipment. When we first started out, I remember it was Comic Relief and Nominate Trust gave us our grant, and they were like, look, what would be a game changer here? Like, come on, if you had a blank check, what would help Stoke? And I said, well, I could say everybody has an iPad or a Chromebook, but unless everybody's connected, unless everybody has the confidence and everybody has the education, then it's just pointless. It's a paperweight. So I think there's all these things need to join up together.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Ben McManus there from Wavemaker Stoke CIC, doing incredible work in and around Stoke-on-Trent. This is Business Spotlight with me, Sonia Farrell, in partnership with Cross Rhythm City Radio and Baba Baboon.
Business Spotlight, shining a light on our local business community. Brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.